So I am I'm reading chapter Democracy and Diversity from Civics. Actually, this is one of the important chapter. So and it is also very interesting chapter. So study this chapter very carefully. So let's begin this chapter. Actually, we are going to start with a story which is given in the starting of this chapter. A story from Mexico Olympics. You can see the picture here. This is the picture of the Mexico Olympics, where three people standing on the podium. Actually, these are the winners: gold, silver, and bronze medalist. The pictures on this page depicts an important landmark in the history of the civil rights movement in the United States. So, what is civil rights movement? So, you all must know what was the civil right movement. Actually, during 1954 and 1968, there was a movement was going on in America, in US. Actually, the basic cause of that movement, that the black people, the Afro-American people, the black people were discriminating by the white peoples of the America. So they were fighting to remove this discrimination and wanted the equality in every walks of life. So this was the incident of that during that moment. This represents the medal ceremony of the 200-meter race in the 1968 Olympics held at Mexico City. So this was the Olympics which was held in 1968, and these were the winners of 200 meters race. The two men standing with clenched fists, upraised heads, bowed. So you can see in this picture that two people having raised their hands and their heads are bowed. And while the American national anthem was played, are the US athletes Tommy Smith and John Carlos. So we all know that when the winner of in the Olympic Games, if a player wins a gold medal, then at the medal ceremony, the national anthem of that nation used to used to be played. So here the national anthem of the United States was played, and these two American sportsmen were uh, with raised their hands were standing over there, and the name of these sportsmen were Tommy Smith and John Carlos. So the gold medalist here, gold medalist was Tommy Smith, and the bronze medalist was the John Carlos, and they were belonging to the community of African Americans. They had won the gold and bronze medal respectively. They received their medals wearing black socks and no shoes to represent black poverty. Means in that ceremony they were with black socks but not wearing the shoes, and so that were representing the poverty of black people in America, and they wanted to raise the attention of world uh, that what was happening to the black people in America. With this gesture, they tried to draw international attention to racial discrimination in the United States. Racial discrimination. This word is very important. Racial discrimination. Racial means uh, different races like African race, American race, Afro American. These were the Afro American. Afro American were those people which brought from the Africa as a slave during 15th and 17th centuries. So these people were representing those communities, and they were protesting. They were protesting against the racial discrimination which was happening in America during that time. The black gloved and raised clenched fists were meant to symbolize black power. As you see that their hands were raised with fists, with fists means they were showing the power of black people or black community. Or okay, the silver medalist, and on the other hand the white sportsman. He was Australian athlete Peter Norman, wore a human rights badge on his shirt during the ceremony to show his support to the to Americans. And the third one, who was Australian, wearing a human rights sign on his shirt, means he was supporting the cause of these Afro American people. What was happening in America with these people, with this community? So they were together. They were fighting for for their cause. And now here are few questions raised by the author of this chapter. Do you think that Carlos and Smith should have raised an internal matter of American society in an international forum? Would you say that what they did was political? Why do you think Peter Norman, who was neither black nor American, joined in the gesture of protest? If you were in Norman's place, what would you do? So these were the questions which was raised. So just read this question and think about it there and try to answer by yourself. Okay. And now, and here you can see in this page here few terms are given. First is human rights movement, civil rights movement in America. So read this. And here is Afro American, who were of Afro Americans, and the black power. Okay, just read this carefully. Okay, maybe the questions would be asked in your examination from this section. And now I'm going to read further. The international, so after this incident, what was happened to this sports person, the International National Olympic Association held Carlos and Smith guilty of violating the Olympic spirit by making a political statement. Their medals were taken back, and back home they were subjected to a lot of criticism. Means their medals was taken from them. Their gold medal and their bronze medal was taken from them, and when they reached their home country, they were also humiliated there. And on the other hand, the Norman also Norman too suffered for his action and was not included in the Australian team. And the white person, who was uh, Australian sports person, was also suffered what he did. He supported these two Afro American sports person, so he was also dropped from the Australian team. But their actions succeeded in gaining international attention for the civil rights movement in the US. Recently, the San Jose State University. So they suffered for their actions, but because of this action, what they did in the Olympic, the attention of the world was uh, now now the world can see that what was happening to in America, which we call that it is very forward society, but there was also this kind of discrimination was happening. So and the university, which was San Jose University, which they were former students, honored them and installed their statue in the university campus. So these two Afro American sports person, they were the student of San Jose University. So this university installed their statue in their campus. When Norman died, so then a Norman which was the Australian sports person, died in 2006. So Smith and Carlos were pallbearers at his funeral. So this was the story of the Olympic of 1968. What was happened and how they raised their issues of discrimination, which was happening in America by these sports persons in the medal ceremony, and how the world uh, started seeing this incident, and how the civil right movement was become successful, and how they got their rights. And there was also a very famous name, Martin Luther King Jr. He was also associated with the civil rights movement which was happening in America, and also the woman which was started that movement was uh, I'm forgetting the name. Rosa Parks. Yes, Rosa Parks was the woman who was started the civil rights movement in America. So if you have time, then study these persons also, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, and in the next video or in the next class, we'll uh, study further about in this chapter, like differences, similarities, and divisions. How there are differences in a society, what are the similarities, and how the political parties are contesting their in these diversities, and how they are supporting or how they are making use of the diversity of any society, and how it is good or bad for our society. We'll discuss it later in this chapter.